regime change in Iraq would bring about a number of benefits to the region. After liberation, the streets in Basra and Baghdad are sure to erupt in joy. And the
overwhelming majority are anxious to be liberated and be free.
The removal of this regime would be greeted warmly by the people as long as they felt a better life was awaiting them and a different kind of government would be coming in.
To help the citizens.
The Bush team makes no bones about it. Getting rid of Saddam's the policy, not just disarming him. But with war maybe just a few months away, is the administration planning for the aftermath?
They're not showing the leadership in that regard, and I think we're going to get to D-Day, if I can call it that, and Saddam is going to be gone more quickly than people realize, and we're going to say, what now?
If we don't handle the day after properly, if we do not make the kind of a commitment necessary, then I think Iraq is highly likely to slide into chaos, warlordism, and civil war.
This whole exercise will have been for naught if after Saddam, yet another thug, yet another dictator rules Iraq.
Here at the State Department, they're preoccupied with a new UN resolution on disarmament. And even if diplomats had the time to think ahead, many are still so opposed to the policy of regime change that they'd rather not think about it at all. Yet bombing this December, followed by an invasion in the new year, could see Saddam gone by February. And here in Washington, administration officials are said to be engrossed by a book written by a former CIA analyst spelling out what should happen next.
The key will be what the U.S. does over the long term. Do we commit ourselves and our resources toward a process of long-term reconstruction of Iraq and the creation of an Iraqi democracy, or do we walk away, install some kind of facade government, and allow the country to fall into chaos?
Danger number one is the Kurds rising up as they did in 1991, when their bid for their own state ended in a humanitarian crisis. But the Americans, along with the Turks, never stopped telling the Kurds that a free Kurdistan is not an option. Danger two, bloodletting in Baghdad, as the Shia attack the Sunni Arabs who've ruled Iraq for decades. And if fundamentalist fighters pick off American peacekeepers, will Washington be prepared for the long haul? Are you worried that the administration doesn't have patience to stay the long term?
Certainly. Their experience in Afghanistan, the way that they've handled that, would suggest that this is an administration that isn't predisposed toward that kind of a long-term commitment.
America's committed to just 2% of Afghanistan's reconstruction budget, not a good omen. But Bush supporters believe his bind to Iraq will be different, that fears of a new Yugoslavia are overstated.
I don't think it'll require American troops for a long time. I think people are throwing that up there as a straw man. The truth is that I think Iraqis are very capable of governing themselves. No one has given them the opportunity. This isn't Afghanistan. Afghanistan has never really functioned. The Iraqi people are highly educated and capable. They need our backing.
But can Iraq manage democracy? From its Washington townhouse, the main opposition group in exile is waiting to prove that it can. And aren't the words Iraq and democracy a contradiction in terms?
There are 5 cities in Iraq above 1 million population. It's a very cosmopolitan society. There's a huge intellectual base, and there's a huge industrial base, and there's great resources. That makes Iraq. This is not a tribal warlord society that is difficult to impose on a democracy. This is a society that by nature ready to get into democracy.
Saddam has destroyed any leadership in Iraq. He has killed off any leader of any stature. As a result, there's no one left in Iraq who could emerge as a consensus candidate to run a government, let alone a group.
So it has to be a democracy.
Effectively, you've got to start at the bottom and build leaders, bring them up to the top.
The theory is that this democracy will privatize Iraq's oil fields, letting BP and ExxonMobil in, with the French and the Russians guaranteed concessions too, in return for their support for toppling Saddam.
The military campaign against Iraq has to be short, with minimal casualties, with a massive uprising by the Iraqi people, so that when Mr. Lee Raymond of ExxonMobil or Lord John Brown knock on the door of the Iraqi oil minister, they will be greeted with open arms.
In other words, casualties in a war could make the oil companies unpopular.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because there will be residual resentment.
But what if Saddam blows up his oil fields as he did when he left Kuwait? Part of the attraction of toppling Saddam lies in reducing our dependence on Saudi Arabia. Yet the Saudis are still going to matter and will surely resent the birth of a democracy next door. When it comes to the regional effects of an invasion, there are 2 points of view. One is that an Arab backlash against America will fuel more fundamentalist terror, making it far more likely that governments, including the Saudis, clamp down on dissent. And the other point of view, which is popular here, is that democracy in Iraq will trigger the beginning of democracy across the Middle East.
If done correctly, the sense will be that the United States has removed a tyrant and has allowed the UN and the international community to come in and create a democracy, essentially as they did in Bosnia and to some extent in East Timor.
The image of thousands and thousands of Iraqis uprising against Saddam Hussein, taking matters into their own hand, and then going to the ballot box and dropping off their ballot, broadcast on Al Jazeera television to the Arab world, is the biggest blow to dictatorship.
But is that realistic? I mean, somebody like Hosni Mubarak doesn't want to change his system.
I agree. It's not going to happen unless somebody on the outside says, hey buddy, guess what? Our aims for you, our relationship with you is going to be different in the future. Here are the things that we are hoping that you will be doing in your government for your people. We want a little bit more openness, we want a transition, we want change. We don't want you to win by 99.9% next time.
It sounds good in theory, but of course nobody, not even Donald Rumsfeld, knows if it will work. And it's worrying that while senior foreign policy analysts in this city are thinking about what happens after Saddam, there's little evidence the administration is. Jonathan Rugman, Channel 4 News, Washington.